submitted for your approval. A fan-based show who encompasses the multi-twined multiverse of superheroes, villains, sci-fi, fantasy, horror, and action comedy. All whose genesis stems from the printed page of the comic book. At the logo streaming towards your head, you've just entered into Comics, Cons, and Beyond. Welcome back, comic book fans, to Comics, Cons, and Beyond. Filming here at Yesteryear's Comics here in Kearny Mesa, San Diego. And that's San Diego, California, not San Diego, Texas. Yeehaw. With me, as usual, I have
Bob,
Adam,
and I am Lawrence. And we have news. That's right, we have more news. Fresh off the heels again of the New York Comic Con, because that just happened. It just happened. And there's my notes right there. We have the new Power Rangers movie. Now, for all of you who grew up on the Power Rangers from the 90s, me, I was a little too old at the time. Hey, what's that, sonny boy? But these gentlemen remember it fondly. What do you guys remember of the Power Rangers way back in the day?
I remember watching it and realizing how much I'm going to have to spend on toys because the villain dies each time. That was one of the things that, but, they were cool.
because you were a budget maker back then, for sure.
Oh, yeah. I'm saying you had G.I. Joes, the little ones that were like, around $4.55, and so you had to budget it out. You have to make sure it works. But I did watch that recent trailer for the new Power Rangers film.
And your thoughts?
I don't understand, but I'm still going to check it out. I'm sorry, I don't understand the revitalizing of a genre, a storyline of that had so many gaps. But that's the thing is also I don't get who it appeals to. I can understand if it appeals to people who are watching some of the newer series, but then again, who's it going to play a larger role to? Is it going to be playing a larger role to the newer series or the older ones?
I think it actually picks up. It's an origin story, so I think it's an homage to the original. I've heard jokes that with people hearing that Bryan Cranston's going to play in it, that he's going to be the giant floating
Malcolm in
head.
the Middle. Breaking Bad,
Yeah.
Yes, that's going to be interesting. What I've heard and what I've seen of the trailer, it's darker, it's grittier, not so campy, more of a serious take on the Power Rangers.
Like Breakfast Club meets Power Rangers, is what I hear.
Yes, with less drama. Also, Elizabeth Banks from Pitch Perfect and Pitch Perfect 2, she's going to be starring in it. And Bill Hader of SNL fame, he's going to be in it. Now, there was, and this is news, kind of old news, but who was the Power Ranger that kind of ran amok? What was that news story?
Oh, you mean you're referring to the one that wound up stabbing his roommate?
Yes!
With a sword.
With the sword.
It wasn't just a normal stabbing.
How else would a Power Ranger kill somebody?
Well, that is true. That is true.
Like,
Side
to the violence.
Somebody got pissed off because somebody took their Cheerios. That happens with roommates.
Well, as long as you want to get into a fight with a Zord or something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
I'll
for
take
sure.
it.
How many jokes do you think they made in the apartment before that actually happened? Like, just amongst themselves?
Yeah.
Foretelling.
Too many. But I mean, definitely to go back to it. I mean, it's. I mean, for me, that was me waking up on a Saturday morning watching Power Rangers. I would hope that you guys are going to go see it. I definitely want to go see it.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of excited to see where they're going to go.
It's definitely going to be fun at the very least.
Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah. No, it definitely will be good. And for the big theater theatrical release on the big screen, I think it'll be rocking and rolling. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Also, but speaking of other big news, for those who grew up watching Nickelodeon and Avatar, The Last Airbender, and the spin-off, The Legend of Korra, Adam has some incredible news for each and every one of us.
So, if you're a fan of the first series, I'm sure you enjoyed it thoroughly. And then the second one, the difficulty of after the first murder occurred on the show and they had to move it straight to an online streaming only, it got so much better after that. But the case in point was they had to constantly change mediums. And now it looks like Nickelodeon's not going to pick it up again. So, what's exciting, especially was...
It was an awesome series. I love that series.
Had some of the coolest fight scenes I've ever seen.
Yes.
Well, animated at least. So the point is that Dark Horse is announcing they're going to continue making the storyline for the Avatar. Now it's going to be Legend of Korra, and also hopefully maybe they'll touch on to a little bit what they did before. They did it during the end, in between period between Aang's story and Korra, where they had the background of Zuko's mother. They did that last time, so hopefully they'll do it again. But we're gonna see Korra in the whole steampunk world and the destruction of just everything. What's on the other side of the portal? It's gonna be good. What damn well better be.
If it's anything like the original manga, if I'm not mistaken, and the cartoon series, the animated series, which again was on Nickelodeon, if it's anything like that, I have nothing but high hopes for it. I really do.
And that one terrible movie.
Well, we'll forget about that. Each one of you, I want you to take the blue pill and forget that movie ever came out. M. Night Shyamalan, you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Like, you move your hands around for 10 minutes, and all you do is make a rock go like that, just like that. That's it. You
No,
go,
wait.
whatever,
A
that's fine.
rock. A rock. Really? Really?
Well, shows how much I know about it. I thought it was all right.
Wow.
Sorry.
You would, Bob. You would. Now, going on that you would like to speak about?
I'd like to draw a little bit of attention to a film that's in development.
Ooh.
It's you have to understand, something for me personally is just Fifth Element. I'm sorry. I know it's a campy movie, but it's one of my favorites. It's one of the few films I can watch
Damn
over
good
and
movie.
over again.
Oh, yeah.
Is the creator of that film, Luc, I'm going to butcher his name, Luc Besson.
Close enough for
That's
accuracy.
I
That was
apologize.
good.
Is going to be creating another science fiction film. Science fiction called Valeria and the City of a Thousand Planets. It's based off of a 1960s comic book strip. I should say it started at that point. It's since escalated to much more grandiose storyline. But recently some images were tweeted, and also a few little screenshots were shown of some pretty impressive things, like some animatronics and robots, and the two lead actors. I hope it's going to be fun and as gorgeous as some of the other films he's done, but that one's just... I've got such high hopes for it. I'm sorry if I hype it up, but please don't film me. You're all that matters.
He won't let you down. He's Luc Besson.
Professional.
We at Comics Cons and Beyond want to kind of give a special shout out to who we feel are the true superheroes of the world. The positive thinkers and dreamers, our educators, environmentalists, first responders, emergency personnel, law enforcement, but most importantly, something that's really near and dear to our hearts, the brave men and women of the United States Armed Forces. Here at Comics Cons and Beyond, we really feel strongly about this, and we want to give a special CC&B dedication to each and every one of you guys and gals who are out there every single day, and for what your families go through every single day protecting our great nation. So on behalf of Comics Cons and Beyond, this CC&B is for you.
Cheers.
Cheers. Good stuff. Thank you.
Hey, name's Adam Carr. My beard is my only redeeming quality, but we'll make up for that. I have to say, honestly, I started getting comic books. I remember it was important because it was 93. It was Fila 93, the Marvel trading cards. I bought those not even reading comic books. I just thought the cards were awesome, and that's where it really began. I would say, though, the biggest event for me was a Comic-Con. I'd probably say 2000, maybe in 1999. When I was working in convention, I managed to somehow get my hands on exhibitor pass, and I made some money doing beer runs for exhibitors. So I was about 17, and I had around $200 in a Comic-Con convention with no limitations to where I could go. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. And the legend began. This word, Warlords of Appalachia. Interesting comic book take on an apocalyptic world, but more or less, I would say it was more human. It's similar to how the difference between The Walking Dead and then George A. Romero's ideas of the Night of the Living Dead. You have the glam, insane, and crazy storyline, and then in this story, but then in Walking Dead, you have the human element. This comic book is a storyline about after a social collapse, not necessarily apocalyptic, but at least at very least a social collapse, society rebuilding itself and then making new lines about where they choose to stand. Almost like it's almost a tale of a new civil war, you'd say, between the North and South. It looks gorgeous. I can't wait to see the other volumes. You guys watch Luke Cage all the way from start to finish?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was really...
No, I haven't. No, I'm just kidding.
I gotta say the music and the scoring for that, I was expecting something else entirely, and what they delivered was fantastic. The only time they ever bumped any, I don't know, I guess you'd say mainline tracks, like everything else was kind of subtle, but when they bumped whatchamacallit, Wu-Tang Clan's
there last week.
Bring the Ruckus.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my god, that was like reminiscent of like Natural Born Killers when they played Rage Against the Machine. Just that straight raid sequence. Oh, that was so good.
Luke Cage. It was cool in the what was it the flashback where how Luke Cage got his powers
when he had the outfit.
the Easter egg
on point.
Yes. Oh my god.
Totally.
So awful.
I was sitting there. I'm like,
Thank you for
wait,
that.
wait a minute.
That was awesome.
There's so much homage going on.
Yes.
Right now.
Yeah. So that was cool. And going back to our previous discussions and the reasons for the rant and rave portion here, so we can go off and just geek out on this.
Yeah.
Again, I love what Netflix is doing. I love that we have an alternative to just having our characters and storylines butchered for 2.5 to 3 hours on the big screen, which they're not going to go anywhere. That's going to continue. But we have something that's closer and more to the storylines and characters that we love on a continuing series basis, streaming, and it's successful.
I mean, I completely agree with it. Honestly, the one thing that kind of has me worried for is the scope of this. I mean, I don't know exactly what they plan on tying into, the MCU as far as streaming goes. But I mean, obviously, we are aware that the Defenders are going to roll out, and we're aware that we have all of this time that's dedicated to these characters. I want to know if they're going to see some Thanos time. Are they each going to get punched in the face by a golden gauntlet here or there, or are we going to wind up?
That's just how you start the season. It's just them getting knocked in the face by the golden gauntlet.
Why not? Why not just a slow motion homage? Each first episode of the new season should just be a gauntlet knuckle
catching their face.
Yeah, each one should have a little tint of a color. But it's exciting, but it's also kind of. I don't think that when it comes to movies, there's ever been something that's dared to take this scope on. And I mean, obviously we're dealing with Disney and we're dealing with Marvel, so it's going to be an event. But
I think with the production teams that they're getting together for this, they have more creative freedom, or more, I shouldn't say creative, more freedom to give not only the how should I say, the very loyal hardcore fans, but even those fans that are curious to where everything started, how did these characters come about, and giving them the platform. And the more successful that these series are becoming, obviously the more budget is going to be allowed, so these things will blossom into some incredibly wonderful how should I say this, offerings. I mean, this is where it's going. This is the future for storylines, to have a completion from the beginning, the origins, all the way till whenever they decide to stop. It's not going to be everything mishmashed together in 2 hours where so much gets butchered out. You're like, really, is that how it happened? They have the breadth and the time to do it right. Yeah. And the actors and actresses are young enough to continue as these characters until either they decide to opt out, or explode. Yeah, there you go.
They meet the Han Solo.
Oh yeah.
They jump the shark, as it were. I mean, it's obviously we know that Marvel and Disney have a scope of what movies are coming out during what time, so we know what to expect. We know what content's going to be included, but the amount of content is only going to grow. And obviously, there's no way that they're going to wind up containing all of this in 1 2-hour-long film. I'm sure they're going to wind up pushing the budget when it comes to time in general, so I'm sure they're going to wind up stretching it to 2 movies, but
it's going to be interesting.
They're not going to end it there. I mean, there's no way that they're going to wind up, regardless of whether or not Robert Downey Jr. decides to take a step back from Iron Man, or whether or not Chris Evans is going to wind up doing Captain America again, because we all know that even in the comic books alone that they keep changing who Mr. America is himself in and out all the time. So it's going to be interesting at that point who they're going to wind up portraying, because I'm sure most of you have seen the comic books tend to lean towards the characters described in the movies or the films or the streaming now. So when you went to pick
They're
up,
tying everything together.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you pick up the new Jessica Jones and you're like, this looks like the streaming, you know?
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see what happens or what's going to happen and how they're going to wind up portraying these characters.
Well, once Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans do decide to opt out, those are going to be some serious costumes to fill for any actor who takes up those gauntlets.
And they're going to have to be as passionate as these two, honestly.
Very much so, yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know if you could call Robert Downey Jr. passionate or just he found the right crazy to fit him. Like, I think it's happenstance almost. I think he's like, well, I've gone this certain type of crazy after everything I've done in my life, and here's a role that matches me.
But that's I mean, that
Yeah.
leads it in. I mean, what better person to play that? Someone who, you know, obviously we know Tony Stark has been and constantly battled with alcoholism,
Yeah.
and we know that, you know, Chris Evans has a substantial tie to Captain America.
He was frozen in ice, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Well,
Well,
I
in a
mean,
freezer once. No.
Ty is in that he enjoys that particular role.
On behalf of Comics Cons and Beyond, this is Lawrence.
This is Bob.
This is Adam, and you're welcome.
You're welcome, gang. We'll see you next time. Remember to like the channel, subscribe, and tell a friend. We'll see you soon.